I'm Amon.
I'm Verde.
I'm JG.
And we are
the Neighborhood Kids. And you're listening to a Step Off Magazine production.
Mic drop.
All right, internets, welcome to another episode of Step Off Radio, the official podcast of Step Off Magazine. I am joined here once again by my co-host, Jose Cortez. Say what's up.
What up?
We got a very special show for y'all today because not only is it one of our inaugural episodes, it's our first episode on video. So today, joining us for this very first video podcast, we have the one and only Neighborhood Kids. Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah. The kids.
Yo, man, yeah, thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
No doubt, man. So, for all the listeners out there who may not be familiar with your work, please introduce yourselves individually to our listeners and let them know who you are and what is it that you guys do.
So together, we're the Neighborhood Kids. I'm Amon the Emcee.
I'm Verde.
I'm DJ JG.
And then we have other members in the band, but this is where we're at right here.
This is a tiny desk, so we can only fit so many people,
Tiny desk.
This couch is very old and only can support so many people right now. But do you want shout out any of the other members of the band or?
Shout out Nico Rosie. Shout out Gatos Locos.
Dope.
Shout out Emerson.
No doubt, man. Yo, man, so with that said, let's start from the beginning. So for all three of you guys, tell us a little bit about your guys' early years. Did you guys grow up in musical households or artistic households? And what kind of music did you guys grow up listening to, that kind of set you on this trajectory?
Honestly, I didn't grow up too much on a musical background. Like, the only music that I got introduced to was when I asked my brother. I was like, hey, can you hook me up with a CD with some music? Because I had no access to music whatsoever when I was younger. So he gave me a CD, and it had Linkin Park in it, it had Eminem in it, it had Dr. Dre in there, there was Snoop Dogg, and yeah, there's a bunch of different artists like that were on there. So I enjoyed some of it, and that was where I kind of grew up and listened to that kind of music, and then when I really got into music was when I was 15. I was 10 listening to that CD. But then when I got to 15, I got my own little studio, and that's when I started writing first. So I started writing, then made beats, and then DJing, and that's kind of how.
So you graduated from there because it's funny. Most people start off DJing, and then they progress to producing, and then then to doing lyrics.
Yeah. So I started writing first, yeah, and then I would just freestyle a whole bunch, and then I wrote a little bit, and then freestyle.
What was your MC name? What's your first MC name?
62.
62?
It was funny. You remember the game Def Jam?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how you could create your own characters?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody created a character for me named 62, and then we would play that game all the time. And ever since then, all the homies were like, "Oh, your name's 62." So that's what they would call me.
That's what's up, man.
That's where that came from, So.
Yeah, that's what's up. What about you two? What were your kind of musical influences, or what kind of upbringing musically did you all have?
So for me, I could relate to him because my parents are super Mexican, so no hip hop. They hated hip hop. I'm gonna say that. For sure. They thought, the, kind of drugs, and they thought that that's what it was all about, drugs, and gang, and all that bad stuff, what it's projected, I guess, to be, So I would steal my sister's CDs because she would listen to hip hop, and I remember, this is random, but I stole her Lil Wayne CDs, and that's actually the first rapper I ever listened to, which is very different from the music I make, Right. But the first time I listened to hip hop on my own, I found stuff on SoundCloud like Capital Steez, Pro Era, Joey Badass. Like that's what made me feel like I could say a message actually, like in music and stuff. And I actually didn't start rapping till I didn't even know like freestyle, or like I didn't know about any of that. Like I was first introduced to like poetry, you know, obviously from school and stuff. And then from there, I met one of my friends, and he would like start freestyling, and I was like, what is that? You know, like just a cappella, just, you know, rhyming and stuff. And then he's like, go, you know, start rapping, you know. So he like pushed me to do it, and obviously it didn't sound good at first, but he was like, that was kind of good, like you should write something. So that same day I went home and I wrote something on my phone, and I showed it to him the next day, and he was like, wow, like you could actually like rap if you like keep going, you know, and practice. And that's how it all started, really. Yeah.
So my mom has like a crazy eclectic music taste, and she's listened to a bunch of stuff. And I was talking to Rob earlier that, you know, when I grew up, the YouTube era was big, and I was into like anime a lot. So I'd watch anime music videos, nice. And then they would have like songs in there. And it started from like Linkin Park and System of a Down, I found on my own. But my mom had like a crazy taste in music. Like one of her favorite artists, not so much now because of like some statements they made, but like Morrissey and the Smiths, and then she likes the Strokes, and she likes Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, you know, NWA. She likes MIA, likes, she used to like Kanye, likes My Chemical Romance, him, and she likes Rage Against the Machine too, and just everything out of the park. And then, yeah, I think when I was in high school, I started finding out about like underground hip hop. I was actually telling him too that my mom dated somebody, and in the car he was playing Liquid Swords by GZA, and I just blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is not like gangster rap. What is this, you know? And then I started like, oh, there's different types of hip hop. That was 6th grade. And then in 9th grade, I got suspended from school, and I got my like my video games all taken away, but my mom didn't know that my grandma lent me her old work laptop that was that she didn't need anymore. And I was like, I'm gonna look up some instrumentals, and I looked up a Mortal Technique instrumental, and I wrote something to it, and like I was like, yeah, hey, and then I wrote another line. I was like, I can actually do this, and I was like, I like this. And I remember showing like a friend at school. I was like, oh, because he showed me MF Doom, and I showed him that, and he was like, you didn't write that. And I was like, for real, I did, and he was like, nah, and he was like, that's somebody else, I was like, let me just think of it right now. And like he couldn't, and I was like, at first I used to get like offended. I was like, nah, I wrote this. But now I'm like, hey, if you wrote something, they can't believe you wrote it. Like, that's a sign that you wrote something pretty good there, So that's how I started like actually writing stuff, and what took me on. So like, shout out to my mom's, like, and she's a big music lover. I remember going to Best Buy with her when new CDs would drop. Like specifically, I remember when she went and got the new MIA project that had Paper Planes on it. I remember putting it in the CD player, and like I was like, so just her seeing like her love of music and stuff, like, yeah, really brought me into.
So you're truly from that hip hop generation. Like your mom's putting you on stuff like this. It's like, a lot of people like their parents like said like Verde, like their parents hate it. My parents hated it,
Yeah.
So like, like I had to find this out through like friends or stuff like that. So that's really cool that your mom was putting you on so much game, from an early age as well. I
think to put it in perspective too, my mom's super young too. What is it? I'm 25. She's 42 or 43. So she had me super young. So I think she had like more of an open mind. And she's also from that era where like stuff started changing and stuff, because she said, I remember her telling me that when she remembered like being pregnant and like hearing like Nas and Lauryn Hill's song on the radio, like If I Ruled the World, and she was like, yeah, that was like, I'll listen to that type of music when I had like, when you were in my stomach. And then she said that she remembers the first time she listened to Eminem, like a coworker was like, oh, Dr. Dre just signed this person, you guys have to check them out. And she was like, what do they sound like? They're like, they're just different. You need to like listen to it. And then she says, oh, I remember listening to Eminem the first time, just being like, what is this type of music? Like they've never heard anything like that. So she has like had a pretty open mind, and in that era where she's like, oh, I'm gonna go buy the CD to listen to it. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like, oh, let me just look it up at that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Most definitely, man. Yeah, guys, thank you for sharing that. So, with that being said, you guys are on your own respective journeys, you know, in this hip hop thing, you guys are finding your way, finding your sound. How do you guys go from these positions of being people who are appreciating the music to being actual active participants, whether it's DJs, producers, or MCs? What makes you go from this like passive position to actively making your own music?
I can start this one off.
Please.
So I know. So I like how I said, I started in 9th grade, and then like in 10th grade, like I was just like 9th or 10th, I was like, oh, let me just keep writing as much as I can, you know, and like. And any time in school, like when there was free time, that's what I was doing, you know? And I think in 11th grade, I was introduced to SoundCloud, and I was like listening to other people on there. And on my phone, or I don't know if everybody's SoundCloud app had it, but there was a feature where you could record yourself. So I was recording my songs like that, super ghetto, just like, just the beat playing on there, like vocals over. This sounds terrible. And like I remember going into my closet, like, with just like where the clothes were hanging, I was like, oh, this will dampen the sound, and it didn't do anything, you know? Like it sounded terrible, you know? But like I would put this out, and I would like promote this at school and tell all my friends, hey, check this out. And like people would like tell other people, and I was like, okay, cool. And like I know that it wasn't the best at the time, but my confidence was right there, you know? And I remember I would write little posters, and the name was still the same, Amon the Emcee. So I'd make little posters, Amon the Emcee on SoundCloud, and I put it over the water fountain. I put it in the bathroom. I put it in my teacher's rooms and stuff, and like they would let me. And I remember I performed at the Halloween show where, you know, you do, what is it, the contest, where the costume contest at lunchtime. And I remember I was like begging like the ASB like people and the directors, like, hey, let me on there, you know. They reviewed my lyrics, and they're like, all right. And then I got like a cool response to that, and then I was like, I'm gonna do the pep rally too. And then so that just like I did that too, and I just kept going from there. And I was like in like high school, I was like, no, this is what I want to do, you know, and what I'm doing now, you know. So yeah, that's how I became like an actual participant from a fan to here. Yeah.
How about you, Verde? What's your story?
So for me, I started recording music with like headphones, and it would have like a little mic thing. So yeah, so it was super shitty quality as well. But I remember my parents would work a lot, so they wouldn't be home, and I didn't start writing till like college. So I didn't get into it till like really later, you know. And yeah, I would just find tight beats on YouTube and just record really shitty quality music, you know, sonically, of course. And from then, I mean, I would always like want to put a message, really. Like I really always emphasize like putting some substance in your music, you know. And yeah, I mean, from the inspiration of listening to what I did listen to, I felt like there was a need to, you know, not say derogatory stuff, and really just change the way that music was, you know, or is, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and then for me, I actually, every Christmas we would get something really nice, right? We'd ask for something, we'd ask for something, we'd get something really nice. My oldest brother would always gift us something every Christmas, right? But when I was 15, we asked for like a studio, like, you know, like to have like a closet studio. So he got us the mic, he got us the headphones, he got us pretty much everything to start like recording when I was 15. And then at first I would just mess around, you know, I would just harmonize, I would just play around and just like not really think of it, you know, like being like, oh, like a cool like artist, like I'm gonna do this, you know. But that's what I was doing, just harmonizing. Like I was more like singing like back then. I wasn't even like rapping. Gotcha. So I started rapping, and I was like, oh cool, I like this. And then I started freestyling. So yeah, I started doing that, recorded, and then producing beats was like super big for me. Like I started making beats, and it was just like a lot of fun. Like, and I was just using GarageBand too. Like when GarageBand first came out, that's what I was using. And then it was Logic Pro X, and then, you know, so forth. And then after I became a DJ, and then like I got that for my senior year gift, And instead of getting a car, I was like, I want some turntables. So I got
That's what's up.
I got some turntables. And then, my brothers thought, they were like, oh, he's just going to, like, pick it up. He's not going to, probably not going to do anything with it or anything. But there was something about it where I just, like, would go in my room and I'd set it up really nice, have everything nice. And there was something about it that just, like, I just wanted to keep practicing, And my friend actually got me on DJ Cuber, DJ Shifty, A-Track, like all those like there's a lot of East Coast DJs too that he put me on, and I was super interested in like them like just cutting it up, and that really like sparked my interest in like DJing. So ever since then, like I just practice like 5 to 6 hours a day, just stuck in my room after school, just like in there, like just doing it.
Committed to the craft, man.
Yeah. Committed, and then I didn't start performing until 2 years after that. I think I was, I think I was like 19 when I first started, like, or 20 when I first started, performing.
And what year was this?
Let's see, what year is 2014. So
Okay.
this is when I first started like going into like doing shows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept doing that, and then I met them, and this is where we've been,
That leads us to our next question. There's three parts, so you all are all doing this on your own. What brought you all together? So I know that some of the kids aren't here, obviously, but what brings you guys all together to form this? I'm just gonna call it a super group.
And the significance of the name, right? We want to talk about that too, because you all came together. You all found each other by some means, right? But like, how did you settle on the name, the Neighborhood Kids?
All right, so there's gonna be some crazy backstory on this one. We met JG years ago, right? And in 2019, we were just doing a crazy run where we were doing like probably like 4 to 5 shows a week, or like, at least once a week we were doing a show. And even if he wasn't on the lineup with us, sometimes we'd run into him at a show and there'd be turntables there, and he would just ask for permission, and the DJ at the time would be like, yeah, you could use it. So we were just always performing together. And then eventually we got on the Cypher Effect. You guys familiar with it? And that was a really cool experience. And then JG had to handle some like life stuff after that, and then the whole lockdown happened. But during the lockdown, me and her were just still writing all of our music, and we were doing so much music together that we really wanted a name that encompasses what we had. And we had, after so many like terrible names, so bad, since like everybody was like on the lockdown, the kids across the street from me, where where the block party was, the kids across the street, they were like always playing basketball, because you couldn't leave or do anything at the time. There was nothing going on, and we were doing videography at the time, and they wanted to learn from us or whatever. And we had our cameras out, and we were just like messing around with them and playing, and we're playing basketball with them. And one of our other neighbors said to us, "It was like, oh, that was super cool. We saw you guys hanging out with the Neighborhood Kids." And then it clicked.
Yeah, and and I will say that like, we're so like silly and just like so weird, like we'll make jokes every day, like just be shooting the shit, and I just think it resonates so well, like, and just the message of keeping that inner kid, because a lot of people like they have this ego that it's like, dude, like we're all just kids, and it's we gotta just keep that energy, because it's so easy to just fall into like, I'm the shit, and and I think we just need to keep that kid, because I always think like, what would your little kid self like say to you right now, or right? So
yeah. And we know people like grow up obviously because of the everything that goes on in the world, all the dark, the good, the bad, the ugly, but there's something about keeping that little kid inside of you, keeping them happy, because a lot of people with like bills and working and just life and just everything going on, it's easy to like let that slip away. But I think more than the name, it's like it could also be a movement, like, because we're the Neighborhood Kids, but everybody was a neighborhood kid at one point, so that's what.
Yeah, it's definitely. And I just gotta ask, because obviously there's some names that didn't make the cut. Can I get like one? Like, give me one example of like one of the ones that was like Ash bit of history.
And there's quite a few. Like for a while, because we, you know how like there's the term soulmates, right?
Yeah.
You know, so like this is my partner. You know, I'm in love with her, and right away when we first met, we clicked, and she told me the term called twin flames, right? Where like that somebody is like, it's like more than a soulmate. It's like only like, you know, there's only a few people in the world that could really like match you with that, and sometimes it's like a once in a lifetime experience, you know, and like that really resonated with us. We're like, we're the twin flames, you know? Like that sounds terrible now. And then after that was already taken, gladly, you know, like I'm glad it was. I was like, oh, maybe we played on some other things. I was like, Mother Earth, Father Time, you know?
Oh, y'all are so cute though. We're gonna go like it's gonna be like there's no temporality. It's like it's very good. I like that's funny, yo. Thank you for sharing this. I heard that. I was like, oh, I gotta know.
So with that said, guys, you know, for anyone that has listened to your music, there is a political tinge and socially conscious message to all of your music. And I wanted to ask you guys, you know, political discourse in this country is probably the ugliest it's been in recent memory. And as a group that has made a point to make political and socially conscious music, what are your thoughts on the current state of just not discourse, but general climate in this country? Are things going in the right direction, or do you think that they could be going better?
I think it's very easy for everybody to like see, you know, everything black and white when there's a very gray area, because there's a lot of more freedoms people are getting, and there's a lot of freedoms being taken away. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. So I think like there is a lot of bad that we see right now, you know, and as far as like racism coming out to light, but I guess that could also be a good in seeing like people's true colors, you know, but there's, you know, it's terrible. But apart from that, I feel like another thing too is like, I don't think people like to say like, oh, we're a political band because we talk about social issues, you know, but I don't think we're political. I think we're just talking about human rights at the end of the day. And I feel like there shouldn't be anything political about, you know, treating people like humans, you know. It's like wherever it gets into that, you know, that scope of it. But I think that, you know, there's so many people that can connect to each other now because of like the internet, because of you know, the access to being able to communicate, so you can find like-minded people. And I feel like people are really waking up, you know, and I feel like a lot of these like headlines want to make us fear things, you know, fear like other people. They make us want to fear like what's happening with like you know, the job market, with racism. I know there's still kids in the cages right now, you know, with the ICE detention centers, and I know there's people across the world that don't have, you know, their freedom. But I also feel like there's like a collective like you know, enlightened, where people want to do something about it. And I feel like, you know, there's these uprisings and stuff like during the whole marches that were in 2020 for after George Floyd got murdered, and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. And that was a crazy, because it wasn't just here that it happened, or it wasn't just where the situation happened. The whole nation got together. And then when the elections in 2020 happened, people across the world were marching against what was going on. And there's like people want to say that we're so divided, but I think there's a huge sense of unity that people like to overlook too. So it's very easy to be like, oh, this is the worst times in life, but it's also could be the best times in life, you know, depending on your scope. And obviously some people get born into terrible situations, and a lot of people are like, we're blessed, you know. And I feel like there's a lot of blessings, a lot of curses to where we live right now, you know.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And yeah, so that's what I'm gonna say, because it's not easy to like explain that. It's just there's a huge gray area that gets overlooked.
Of course. Yeah, there's a lot of. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, because there's a lot of discussion about like, you know, who, for me, it's always like who's doing the dividing and who's doing the unifying, right? Like our people, you see it, like we're all coming together, we're experiencing things, but we're not like naturally inclined to be divided, right? Like if anything, we all want to come. Somebody breaks their car down on the side of the road, people sometimes will just stop and organically want to, you know, come together. Even like you were talking about the neighborhood kids, like everybody, like, as you know, when you're little kids, organically you all like click up and you just mob around the neighborhood and do, like, janky stuff because you're like, a kid, right? And obviously you mentioned the discourse, right? Like all this stuff that makes us want to fear each other, right? Like it's not black and white, but it like comes down to like, well, why is it that like the people with all this power, like to tell us what's like on the news, what's in the media, or even like what's like the music that we're listening to, why are they like hyping up this like, oh, we can't trust each other, that the neighbors like that we have with or whatever aren't trustworthy, you know? So I think that you touch on a good thing, which is like, you know, obviously it's not just black and white. It's not just like, oh, people are evil or whatever, like the human nature argument people make. I think that's dope. Were you going to say something though, JD?
No, I was going to say I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
What he was saying, honestly. He hit the mark on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
Alrighty, so yeah, you know, we were talking about like kind of the social ties that your music has. Like obviously, I know that there, you know, it's a very specific song that you all did just right here at the office. That's all about like what's, you know, kind of the global impact that's happening on children. There's a song about like the developing world, third world that you all did. And obviously, hip hop has been like a conduit for, you know, political and social causes over the years since its very inception, right? So, what are your thoughts, I guess, just about how hip hop as a medium could be used for like sharing these messages? Do you think that like that's something that is like of use to our communities? Like obviously, I'll just say it, like none of us are white here, right? Like do you think that like hip hop as a medium is like is a practical or an important way to like kind of get these messages out, or do you think that, you know, it's even appropriate to do that in this music? I'm assuming some things like having heard your music, but what I guess is like, you want to expand on that a little bit?
I definitely think that's a great outlet to do it through hip hop, because, and to do it through song, really, honestly, because no matter what it is, no matter if it's R&B, no matter if it's even pop, rock, whatever it is, like as I think it's so powerful being that someone else can sing your lyrics and literally repeat that and manifest positivity or unity or bringing everyone together, you know. I think that is so incredibly powerful, and I think it could be powerful as well as positive but negative too, because like we hear it in you know, the mainstream music that it's like you know, talking about crazy stuff, right? And you're saying that, and that's what trips me out, because the younger generation like is saying these crazy things, you know, which upsets me. But at the same time, like I understand that we're making an impact, and as long as like at least we're doing something about it instead of just talking about they're doing something wrong, like we have to make the change, right? But yeah,
I agree with her, and I think it's extremely important to do it through music, especially because you could have like a young politician per se approaching all these things and telling these kids like what we could do like in civics to help our communities and whatnot, but it's not going to hit as hard to the younger generation as hearing somebody their age or in their demographic that kind of looks like them or that they could feel, you know, to tell them the same things, you know, and especially put that message in there, and it will actually resonate and stay in there. Especially when you're in your formative years, music is going to be something you remember. I remember like listening to Mortal Technique when I was, you know, I think like 13, 14, and the things that he talks about are still in my head, and that's still like the awareness and brings up and the impacts he made, like building schools, and as far as just making that music that really put that impact. So I think that's super strong and super important, and it should be like a standard to put some message in here. I know it's not, you know, but as long as there's art, there will always be artists that are going to talk about things and put their message across, and you know, really uplift the next generation and wake them up, you know, at an early age. And it's the best way to do it through music.
Yeah, and to make these ideas cool, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not that no one wants to go and be like, be a good person. You know, obviously, we want to incentivize that, but society at large doesn't necessarily incentivize that. You're almost incentivized to be like ruthless, right? Like the main kind of motivators you hear are like, be like so ruthless and heartless and whatever, grind, like work 70 hours, step on anybody that gets in your way. And so to like have a different message, right? Like to make those ideas cool. That's what I really like about your all's music, is like, it's not only like, you know, a positive message, but it's like, it's cool. You all are cool. Like,
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I kind of want to expand upon that. You know, hip hop is one of the most powerful and significant musical genres as well as social movements of the past 50 years. And I think it's safe to say that like hip hop has had a profound effect on all of our lives. Like none of us here are over the age of 32, so like we don't know a world without hip hop. You know, like it predates us. and we've always grown up around it. And I kind of wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on hip hop's power to build unity and enlighten the masses and to fuel mechanisms for change in our society, especially right now with so many things changing at the moment.
And with the internet too, because I mean, just hearing something that you all were talking about, like a common thread was like YouTube, SoundCloud, like you all found this music and this genre together with like the help of the internet. And like, do you think that the internet is like, in addition to Rob's, question, will have any kind of impact on how that message gets out, and how do you enlighten people to these ideas? Because you said like obviously the people who actually control like the labels, the people that are actually controlling like who gets to go tour and gets the bread to actually get this message out and gets like these ideas listened to, are obviously not people pushing like a socially conscious kind of thing. Like how do you all like confront that, or do you think that like, using the internet is helpful for that?
Oh, most definitely. And I think the world is very much changing. I heard somebody say that, the television doesn't exist anymore. Your television's on your phone now, So commercial, you know what I mean? So like the same way, like the internet is now the television, the internet is now the form of entertainment. And the same way that you're slipping these messages in your music, if you slip that into your content on internet, you're gonna get that message across to people. Like, TikTok is one thing that's really changing our lives right now, and getting our message across and really putting our outlet onto other people and bringing all these people that are very non-biased, because on Instagram it's a lot of our friends and some random people that are coming across our things, but on there's all random people who have unbiased opinions, and they hear our message, they either like it or they hate it, but at the end of the day it's getting out to those thousands of people. So the same way I feel like there's many things detrimental about the internet, but there's also so many beneficial things about the internet, and the huge thing is the connecting and also the outreach that it has, along with what you said about the record labels and promoting all this. I feel like record labels, they do their thing, but I feel like they're dying off. The independent artist is thriving right now, and there's almost like no use for a record label most times, So I think, and then back to Rob's question, that the power of hip hop?
Of hip hop, yeah, to make change and to fuel these mechanisms,
It's huge. It's huge, especially because I feel like hip hop can be such a tight-knit community. We're friends because of this music, We know you because of this music. I feel like otherwise we wouldn't have known about each other, And these are strong connections. These are real, This isn't just like on the internet, which nothing against that, But like these are genuine, real connections that were made because of the music. You guys believe in what we say, and we actually, we practice what we preach. We do it, We fight for these people, and we actually like work with nonprofits to make this an actual thing instead of just saying our music. Because there's nothing wrong with just putting it out there, but we want to take that extra step, to actually be, I guess what you want to call activists, But I think at the end of the day, just good people,
The best people, I would argue. People that look around, walking over people dying on the sidewalk, and we're like, this is wrong. I want to do something about this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anybody else want to answer Rob's question? I was like, I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts about this one or about the internet. I didn't mean to open the internet can of worms.
I just feel like if you use anything and you use it for good intentions, I think it's okay, and just spreading that good positive voice out and that good message, and find free people.
Exactly. I'm sorry to go into another tangent, but exactly what he said, as long as you have like good intentions, because they've always said the money is the root of evil, but you could use money for evil, or you could use money to help people, I think we have very altruist like goals and stuff, and I think that, it's very easy to be like, oh, fuck money because, the rich have it, and, or you could be like, hey, how about I just stop, complaining on what they have, because money's all around us, and it's, it's very possible. I understand there's like different class systems or whatever, but there's also like, we could do anything we set our mind to. We really have the power to do that. Sure. And as long as we put like good intentions behind what we're doing and really like move with a purpose, good things will happen,
Absolutely.
And like, what were you saying? Money can't buy taste, right? And money can't buy like values, right? Like money, obviously we've seen it. Like some of the people with the most money are the most morally bankrupt people that are hurting our communities the most. So I think it's dope that you kind of mentioned that it's kind of like the intent, right? And obviously somebody that really believes something, I've noticed, can punch way above their weight class, like in any industry, whether that's music or happen to be in an office that does a lot of like let's just call it social activism as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, thank you. I'm gonna just like ask you a direct question, because obviously me and you were like, you know, cracking jokes with the comrade Eric, you know, and so Eric like let it slip to me just about like how you would freestyle back in the deli in your younger years, you know, just freestyle, getting in that like practice, you know, just, you know, obviously doing I think what you do. And I'm just curious, like, do you think, like, because obviously I think none of us here are rich. Let me just say, I'm gonna go on a limb. I don't think any of us are like fucking rolling in the bucks right now. But like, do you think it, like, you know, coming from doing underground hip hop, do you think like having that experience, like working class jobs in like a deli, like, you know, freestyling while you're cleaning out like the chicken grease and stuff like that. Do you think that's like important to kind of like how you develop your sound, the lyrics that you do, like just having those experiences like a worker?
I feel like it's character building, but I don't feel like it defines you. I don't think that you necessarily need that, because so many people have very character building moments throughout their life without working at early years, younger years. You can find inspiration in anything, you know? So I think like, that's not even where I started freestyling. You know, I think it just, I got to put some of that in songs because it was very, not the best work environment, you know? But I don't think like that necessarily like made me a better rapper. I think like the people I surround myself with, the self-esteem that I helped build myself and the confidence that I gave myself is really what made me become a great artist, you know? And I think that, I feel like working a job, yeah, it definitely builds your character and it makes you, it could make you a better person. It could also tear you up on the inside. That's the biggest fault of like getting rid of a lot of people's inner kid, you know? So I think, you know, better for worse, you know? But I think it could. I think Lauryn Hill mentioned that she didn't drop like any more projects after she was working so much in the studio, going on stage in the studio, because you know, she said you need to experience life to create more music, to create more you know, yeah, just music. You need to experience life, and no matter how you choose to experience life is what's gonna, you know, inspire whatever you're gonna create, whatever it be. You're a journalist, so like your life, your upbringing is what's gonna create that, and anything you listen to, the people that you watch, the things that you hear, the books that you read is gonna go into your journalism somehow. Just like everything that we've listened to is basically what we've become inside of a blender and has created us into the artists that we are. Same thing with you. All your experiences made you this. You're a great funny guy, and I feel like you.
On the record.
And I don't know. I just like talking to you, so I think like you must have had some very good and bad life experiences that made you want to just be like, hey, let me just be a good person. And I feel like that's the same thing for all of us, you know? So yeah, long-winded answer to just say yes and no. I don't think it's 100% important to work these jobs. You could work any job and come out, you know, as artistic as you want. You know, I think it's all mentality. It's all about you. It's all about, you know, what you really feel about yourself, and yeah, and how you choose to be inspired.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for sharing. Don't worry about the length either, man. Long-winded answers could be the alternative name for this podcast.
That's right.
You know, but with that being said, you know, I love how you listed all like the positive attributes that come from life that inform, you know, every aspect, our views, what we create in our art, you know, how we interact and treat other people. And being an artist is, I'll just say it, it's a wondrous and magical experience, but it also comes sometimes with its downsides. It's not always easy. In fact, I'd say a lot of times, most of the time, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask the three of you, what do you all enjoy the most about being hip-hop artists, and also conversely, what do you dislike the most as well?
I think she has the answer on this one.
I could start off with dislike. Obviously, being a woman in hip-hop is very, very difficult, and I will say that I've gotten insulted many times, even like to the recent dates from now till back then, just always doubt, always thinking that, oh, like, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna sing, or are you gonna, like, not that singing is bad, or I just think that people think that's more feminine or more, you know, so there's always this connotation on what it is to be a hip hop artist. So like you have to be, not saying that this is what it is, but like it's just the stereotype, right? So like I really don't like that whole stereotype that, oh, like just because you're a girl, like you can't rap or you can't do these things. And yeah, I really don't like that. I really dislike that about this artist's life, you know, the doubt that comes with it. And I think everyone gets doubted, right? But I think as a woman, it's more extreme.
Where do you think that comes from more often? Does it come from within the community itself, or is it from the listeners?
I think from both, honestly, I will say, because yeah, I've had some experiences that it's came from both sides, and it's unfortunate, but I will say that there is a lot of love at the same time. But yeah, I just really dislike that about it, you know? It's not fair, you know? But.
And I've seen it firsthand where like she'll get very like looked over or like not treated, you know, the same as other artists on the bill, and then people will see her go up and like, oh wow, she's dope, and all of a sudden like, I want to be cool with you now, or I want to like tell you how good you were, but like 5 minutes before I went on, it wasn't the same energy. Matter of fact, it didn't look like I wasn't welcome here, you know? Or
like a lot of the time, like we'll go to shows, and like this was more like back then when people didn't know what we did or whatever, and I always notice this with like conversations. It's like they only want to talk to him, but like to me, I'm like invisible. I'm not there, you know? And then once we go on stage, oh, now I want to talk to you. And it's the same people that we were talking to. So it's just very hypocritical, and it's not fair, again, like how I said, you know.
And on that same part, since we're on the dislikes, I'll just go on to that. Just the whole ego thing, just the people thinking they're better because music they put out, or because of their follower count, or because of all these things. It's like I don't want to treat any artist like they're less than based off of that. You're all human, you know. We're all doing the same thing. Like why is there that crabs in the bucket mentality, you know? So I just try to surround myself, like that's why I'm so grateful for this team, you know, because we're all just, let's lift each other up. As soon as like one person starts to like doubt themselves, you know, we're like, nah, dude, you're dope. Like get that out of your head, you know. So that's the yeah, I think it's a lot of the ego that comes with the doubt, you know. Yeah. And is there anything that you dislike?
I mean, I have to say, I agree with that too. You know, a lot of the ego side, and just a lot of like, I don't know if it's just hip hop or just being an artist, like just like rumors or like, you know, other words getting around, and kind of like a like dividing the community in a way, like you know, when you're going out there and you're just being an artist and stuff. Like sometimes a lot of the talking, you know what I mean? Like, people talking about each other and things and whatnot. That's something that I dislike, you know, because I just want to come onto a show and just enjoy the moment and just enjoy the time that I'm having and being an artist, and just love doing it, you know, without having to hear something or someone say something about something, you know what I mean?
Especially
so that's something that I dislike for sure. Especially
when you're in these really small scenes, you know, like I feel like the music scene in San Diego is already small as it is, and then when you get into something like the underground hip hop scene, it gets real small real quick.
Yeah. And I think to add onto that, yeah, it sucks when you hear, especially like on the internet, you know, like how I was telling you, like it could be good or bad. Like I feel like that's a big thing, and what that segues into what I dislike is not the internet or the people. What I dislike is that it takes like so much like energy and love that we put in and time into these songs, and like, you know, sometimes albums or songs could take months, years, or whatever, but it only takes seconds for someone to criticize it. Yeah. You know, and listen to it and be like, oh, this is garbage, you know, without looking at the full scope of things. And granted, anybody could have their own opinion, but I just like that, you know, any of these opinions could just be like straight bagging on what you're doing, you know. So I think that talk. But enough of the negatives. I think the positives of this genre specifically is, I feel like since it is small, like we tend to have these tight-knit connections and these tight-knit communities, and it's almost like oh, we got this like little scene of group of people that, you know, we rock with, and I'm not gonna say like in a cliquey way, you know, because I like to be outside of, you know, the circle or whatever. I like to, you know, if we're on the same wavelength, I don't care what, you know, what little circles are, you know, like as I said, as long as you're a good person. But it's so cool when you have like this little circle and then somebody in LA is like, oh, I rock with you guys, and then that connection builds, and then now we're in LA, and then it's, oh, now we're in Bakersfield, oh, now we're I don't know, somewhere El Centro. These are all places that we have like cool little communities in because we knew one person from there that wanted to like take a chance and bring us out there. And it's just so cool to have these like genuine connections, real life connections with people, because, you know, we don't have millions of followers or whatever, but we have people that really will die hard for us, and it's beautiful to see like these people that really show the most amount of love, and it wouldn't have happened without this music. And yeah, I only see like huge things, and yeah, I think we're, you said earlier, like, we know we're not rich. I know I'm rich, you know, like this, I got these connections and I see these millions, billions right here. I could feel it, I could see it. This is priceless right here. So, you know, and it's all something that is just from this music, you know, and you can never take that away.
We're rich in what matters, you know?
Exactly.
Not rich in what they tell us matters, right?
Right.
How about you, Verde? What?
Positives. So I just really appreciate the art and how like DJing, graffiti, the emceeing, like there's so like all the elements, you know, is just like incredible to me. There's nothing else like this, you know, nothing completely. And it's something that's just so unique to me that, like how I said, like the most closest thing is like poetry. And I think poetry is just so powerful, and you being a journalist is just like the words, you know, like I think words have so much power.
Power of the pen.
Yeah, exactly. That's my positive side to it.
Hey, to say on that thing, it's a culture, you know. It's a whole culture that is like it transcends you know, orientation, race, religion, anything, you know. It doesn't matter who you are. We have that common love of hip hop, and that goes back to my thing, but just it's a culture, you know. It really is.
It's wild because, you know, like, we're here in the States, but we could go to Mexico, we could go to Japan, we could go to Germany, find hip hop heads out there, and click, you know, instantly, you know. Doesn't matter if we speak different languages, you know, or got different nationalities, you know. It's like, it's a culture that transcends all of those.
Exactly. And then your positives.
Yeah, my positive, honestly, what I really, really, truly love about it is that you can really change somebody's life through music.
Yeah.
Even just sounds, you know, manipulating sounds. Like when I'm cutting up and scratching, like there's a lot of cool reaction, a lot of awesome feedback that I get, that people tell me. They're like, oh, you brought me back to my days of like, you know, like way back then, and it gave me some spark, and I feel good, you know. So just being like able to motivate people and inspire others through music, and being an artist and hip hop artist and cutting, like doing what I do, is like, it's awesome to see, because you can see that spark in their eyes, you know, that like light, you know what I mean? And even some people that told me, look, I was feeling down, like I didn't feel so good, but when I heard you up there, like you woke me up, like I felt so better, you know. So that's honestly beautiful to me, to like knowing that you can change somebody's life, knowing that you can bring positive in their life and motivate them and inspire them. That's really what I truly love about hip-hop and doing what I do.
Absolutely, man. Let's give the DJs their flowers, because again, like I said, this hip-hop thing, it didn't start with the MCs, didn't start with the B-boys, didn't even start with the graph writers. It all started with the fucking DJs. So give the DJs their props, everybody.
That's great.
And also give our flowers to DJ JG, because a lot of people have went into this electronic route and having like CDJs, and he's like really out here with a vinyl setup, and even when one of his turntables messed up, he's one turntable still cutting it up, going crazy, and he's due for an upgrade and stuff. But that nothing of that matters, because the skill and the art form, he's keeping it alive for the vinyl DJs out there, and he's really doing it. So my flowers to DJ JG.
Shout out to JG.
JG.
So I have a question, and it's going to be for Verde next. Specifically, I've heard this song twice. One as like a full band, right? And then once as like a three-piece here in the office. And I fucking love it, just I'm going to be honest. It's the song Tomboy. And obviously the full band has like almost like a Rage Against the Machine kind of vibe, where it's just like I grew up like in the hardcore scene and like working mosh pit security, so I fucking love like I mean, tell them like, all right, let's open this pit up right now. But also I loved it with just like the vicious cutting that you're doing, like and like you're on the drum machine just like slamming on it. I was hoping you could share like what's the significance of the song both to you, as an artist personally. And do you think that it's, songs like this, like that you're producing, which I think is an important one, a very powerful song, and I've seen you do it twice, and every single time you always like do an intro on what it means to you.
Yeah.
So just tell me about what it means to you, and I'll ask my second question after.
Okay, for sure. So when I was growing up, I was super tomboy, like no dress, no skirts, and my mom would hate it. She would like try to force me to wear stuff, and I even remember I would bring a spare change of clothes like in my backpack because I didn't want to like wear that stuff, and she hated it, and she would like be like, no quiero ser marimacha, like basically a dyke. I think that's what it means, right? And on top of that, like when I was growing up, like a lot of, and I will say like girls and boys, they would make fun of me and like tease me because like back then, I know this is like gross, but like I was like super kind of unsanitary. I wouldn't like take a shower every day. Like I would, kind of be a little bummy, like I would have a bunch of like dandruff, like stuff like that, right? And people would make fun of me, and like I even remember this kid would like try to cut my hair, like
oh my god, jeez.
Yeah,
god
so
damn.
like not good things, right? So the song is really enraged, like, and you could hear it, right? Like you're saying Rage Against the Machine, and honestly I didn't even know about Rage Against the Machine like when we were writing that, and I recently like found out about them, so like I had all this rage just built up, like anger that I needed to get out, and that's the beautiful thing of hip hop too, that it's like an outlet for this bottled up like anger, and and that's definitely what I used that song for, like just to let it all out, and make that message to the people that used to make fun of me, and like really stand up for people who are like me and who like go through maybe the same thing or even worse. Maybe I didn't even have it that bad compared to other people, so I'm grateful, and I dedicate that song to those people that would do that stuff to me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a very powerful song, and one that I think, myself, I was like, oh damn, like we don't hear enough of this kind of thing. I think myself, like people like obviously challenging these, notions that are often very like foreign on us. It's not natural for like dating these gender constructs, right, of what is like masculine or feminine, right? And I guess I'm curious to get your insight on this, Verde. Like, obviously, do you think that's like more relevant? Like, songs like Tomboy are more relevant now. Like, people are like, do you think people are more or less willing to hear this now, I guess, in this current stage versus like maybe like 20, 30 years ago or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think people are waking up, like how he said earlier, that people are definitely waking up, and the internet is really like thriving in a way, and I do see the bad in it too, but I will say that there is a lot of like open-mindedness, right? Like whereas like how you said 20 years ago, I don't know if this would like fly, or I also think like the LGBTQ like community too, like I feel like that's very brand new, and like thriving, like whereas 20 years ago, like this would be like bad, or like people would be, bashing or trying to like put it down in a sense, right? But I think it's going up, and I think it needs to be said, and there needs to be more songs that talk about like people and their their bottled up stuff and stuff along that line,
And I mean, you kind of touched on the like vocal like style that you use, I think in a previous answer. I just want to open it up to the whole neighborhood kid crew, basically, of like how did you all decide? Like, I mean, or was it just like your decision to like go with your vocal song? Personally, I'm a huge fan. I fucking, like I said, I grew up in a scene where it's like that, getting those feelings out, right, and that energy. I think it's like very meaningful and very like people can feel that energy, right? And I mean, for me, like some of the songs, especially the ones that you're incorporating English and Spanish, like you're flipping between like these two languages, and that like that energy, I think really comes up. I guess I'm just curious, like, how did you all decide on like incorporating that, or was there what was the decision process? I guess in using those kind of like real guttural, like, you know, like challenging. I just like you mentioned the conventions that people like assume, you know, oh, that like, you know, there's gonna be some singing involved, but it's like no, like we're gonna like this is about real shit. I'm gonna feel my feelings, you know. Like, can you all tell us like how that you know creative process works? Or
hey, it's honestly crazy because it was natural, you know. Before she even found out about Rage Against the Machine, people have told her like, oh, you kind of sound like Zach De La Rocha, you know. And she was like, oh, I've been getting this, so I put her on Rage Against the Machine. And even when we've been making our music, not once were we like, oh, we're gonna sound like Rage Against the Machine. It just happened, you know. Especially like when we like write songs, it sounds way different when you perform it, because something about that energy, something about when you're up there, it just changes, you know. Because when we practice, it doesn't sound like that, you know. And then when we get out there, somehow like, you know, these spirits come into us, and then it just you know, it gets the Holy Ghost, and it just goes up from there. But yeah, so it was more of a natural thing. It wasn't like, you know what, I want to sound super rugged and I wanted to you know do this. Of course, we have like songs where like let's make this sound more underground, or let's make this like sound crazy. And I think now that people have responded really well to that, we're starting to write songs in that. But not once where we're like, I'm trying to sound like Rage Against the Machine, or like I'm trying to like sound angry, you know. It just comes out.
Yeah. There's definitely so much rage, honestly, inside. Like, at least for me, like, I have so much, like, rage inside of me that stuff like this upsets me. Like people getting made fun of, or, like, you know, obviously, like, injustices. Like, it just, like, frustrates me. And I almost feel like when I'm in front of a crowd, like, I need to make my presence known, because, like, back then I was silenced. I was always like, oh, you're the odd one out, or the last one to get picked for something. Like, always, like, that was me my whole life, like, always, like, the last one, you know. And I just have so much rage, I think, like, inside of me, honestly. But I'm not trying. I think it just, like, just comes out, you know.
A lot of reasons to be angry. All like some of the stuff you were talking about earlier, but things you don't like about the scene, you know, like understandable to, and I think that people can really resonate with that. Which I guess my follow up, because I can't stop myself, Rob, sorry, is like, you know, like, do you ever get like hit up by people like because they hear your style, and do you ever get hit up by, you know, other non-men and like or women who are trying to like, you know, break into the scene, and do they ever like, you know, are they inspired to do you want to inspire like more people to kind of pursue like a sound that's true to them, right? Not like what you were talking about, like not one that's like constructed to fit like a narrative, but just like, you know, like follow what the sound is. Like if you're angry, be angry. Is that like kind of the message that you would want to share with people, or what kind of, I guess, message are you trying to share with people that would maybe be trying to break into this scene as like a younger person?
Definitely to just let it out or let it go, because like there's so much baggage that I think we carry as humans. Just everyone just carries all this shit, and you need to let it out, you know, whether it be hip hop, whether it be dance, whatever it is, like you need to just let it out, you know. And that's my advice, like whatever it is, you know, just let it out.
Mm-hmm. And just be the most authentic you that you could be,
right.
You know, because even though there's like these terrible experiences, sometimes these create the most beautiful music.
Right.
And then you said about people like breaking into the scene. I'm gonna shout out the homie right now, because she actually inspired somebody to start putting out their music, and probably like one of the best singers of our generation. I'm gonna shout them out, Nicole McFly.
There you go.
Nicole McFly, came to Saving the People Fest years ago and had been a fan of Verde and watching us, and now we're fans of her, you know. And I don't know if you're familiar or if you're not, but somebody to definitely look out for, because one of the best singers ever, you know, like that type, you know. So
be authentic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to expand on that question also, Verde. I wanted to ask you, since you regularly incorporate Spanish in your lyrics, and it goes without saying, we have a lot of Chicana MCs on this project, and other people from the diaspora too, but a lot of artists that we have on this program, whether it's Cosmic Force or Celine Salah, Indigenous Cats, Tulengua, Odessa Kane, is that rapping in Spanish, it's in a way, it's almost a way of resistance. And I wanted to ask, like, what is the significance to you and what does it mean to you to incorporate Spanish in your music?
I just honestly, it's just my culture and what, like my parents are both from Tijuana. They're both, they're both Mexican, and honestly, every time I infuse that, I just think of them, and I think of like all the struggles and the racial slurs that they've, encountered, and I've seen it happen, and I've seen it, so I definitely like infuse that because of my parents and because of where they came from, and and being an immigrant, or like that shit's real, and hearing other people's like stories on that is it's intense, and I really do just want to infuse it for my people, and for those people that have been through even crazier like stuff that, I'm grateful for where I'm at,
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I love because I feel like on top of, it's like you said, it's our show of our love for our people, but also it makes it accessible to so many other people too. It makes it like, it broadens it, makes it international. You can, people like in other nations, whether it's Mexico or El Salvador, can enjoy this music as well,
Right. Yeah.
So we're gonna change, I think, like gears a little bit, just talking about back as a group. You all make underground hip hop, right? And obviously, I'm a big fan. Like, I'm gonna continuously be promoting like what you all do on social media because I'm just like personally a big fan of the sound. I guess I'm just curious, like, why do you all think like the style of like hip hop that you all make isn't like necessarily in the mainstream, right? It's like underground. Like, do you think that there's anything that we all could do? Because I mean, obviously we're people that are in this movement, we've called it, right? We're trying to like popularize this music. Like, how do you think we can do that? Do you think there's a way to change this narrative in popular culture to make underground hip hop maybe a little bit more mainstream?
I think it's already well on its way, especially like how we were talking about the internet taking its push onto it. And I feel like a lot of artists are, promoting more stuff. Like, I'm not like a huge Jack Harlow fan, but I don't dislike him. I think he's like great, and I've seen like his interviews, and he seems like a very down to earth person, And that song "What's Poppin'" that was playing all over the radio, like he's not like really promoting bad stuff in there. I think he said, "I'm wearing protection, I'm drinking lots of water," and I'm like, that's, hey, so that's very minor, but I'm like, it's just cool to hear, like, even if it's just like a couple lines, like, okay, they're putting something in there, and he comes from like roots of hip hop, and you could tell like he knows the culture, he has the knowledge of the history, and he just seems like a good person, So I'm like, I think that it's really starting to take into the mainstream, and I think like I don't really think the mainstream is going to be a thing anymore, because you see these people, like there's people that they say, oh, they're TikTok artists, or they're TikTok famous, or they made it off of like social media or YouTube, people that are huge on YouTube. They still have crazy fan bases. You cannot like knock their impact. You can't say that they're not relevant, and especially with the age of like Spotify, people are blowing up on Spotify and you don't even know them on other social medias, and it's just crazy that now Spotify is the mainstream, quote unquote. I don't really think there's not really going to be a mainstream for much longer, and I think that it's all breaking through right now. And whether it be like what we interpret as underground, I think it's just going to be hip hop, or the music that we think is like. And I think things are fusing so much now. It's like we don't even know what the genre is, but we could hear like, oh, there's like tones of hip hop, oh, there's tones of punk, oh, there's tones of this, whatever it is. Now it's getting out to the ears of like millions of people, and like, is that mainstream? I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, hey, it's here, and it's taken over, and these record labels aren't going to be a thing for much longer. So yeah, that's what my answer on that is. The
lines are definitely blurring. It's getting harder and harder to differentiate with a lot of stuff. people got so many different influences now with the internet. You know, everything just kind of commingles now. You know, it's really cool to see. So moving on with that being said, also kind of taking it back to you guys a little bit more personally, what are the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome so far as performers?
I could say sometimes we get hecklers, you know.
For real?
At the block party, we had a heckler that was like in the front row, and he was rocking with us the whole time. And we said, "Hey, this song is for our Mexican people." And then he like yelled at us, "What about the gay people? What about the trans people?" I'm like, "Guys, we're on all of our sides. This song is just specifically about our people, and nowhere did I say that you're not included. You know, like we're all together. Like if it's not apparent by all of our other songs that this music is for everybody, I don't know what to tell you. You know, and I think performance wise, like sometimes if like the mic cuts out, I think that's an obstacle right there.
Yeah.
You know. I think being prepared, and I think we practice a good amount so that we could be like prepared for those. So, and I think that that keeps us ready for any obstacle that comes to us when it comes to performing. And I think like right now we're in the career where we can actually like pick which shows that we want to get on. We're getting opportunities to do many shows that we could turn them down. I think that's one of the most blessings right there, you know. So
yeah.
I think now that's become an obstacle on which shows to pick, you know. Like
In of itself.
Yeah. So there is obstacles, you know, and I think those are my just few ones. I think we're very blessed. So I don't know. What do you guys feel about?
I think also trying to make it as an independent artist is very difficult. Like honestly, like we've been doing it for how many years? Like 3 years or
I think a bit more. I think
yeah,
it's like 4,
but like
4 or 5.
fully, like we do not have a job. Like we this is our job, you know. And there's a lot of like obstacles. Like, you know, sometimes it's like, whoa, are we gonna be able to pay the rent this time? You know, it's like always like not always, but like sometimes like on the edge, you know. And sometimes like, oh shit, like if I don't make money from the merch today, it's over, you know. Like stuff like that it makes it really like just you're at the edge of the cliff, and you know it could go either way, you know. And just believing that, okay, like I can do this, you know. Sometimes it is an obstacle and kind of like a barrier in your mind a little bit, but we surpass that and always are thinking, you know, like positively. But I will say that it's not like, you know, sunshine and rainbows, you know.
Honestly, I'm gonna piggyback on her too, because like I know your question was originally about like obstacles of performing, but I'm gonna just go into just being an artist. Like I think, you know, the big pro and the con about all this is I think one of them is that now that if you're an artist, you're also expected to do everything else that comes with it. Like we are our own manager, we're our own videographers, photographers, we're our own content creators, we're our own editors, and then we record our stuff too. And we're barely like getting into like having other people help us with that. But I think just being expected to do so much when really the artist should just focus on making art and creating. But to get to that point, you got to do everything on your own for a while before people really see the vision, because they're not going to see the vision until you start making it clear in front of their eyes, you know? Yeah. So I think that's a big thing, because I could see how it's very discouraging for people that are like making this music and nobody's listening to it. Why? Oh, because I don't put out enough content, or I don't like promote myself on social medias. And it's so understandable that like you see your stuff in the beginning get only a couple likes, and you see in your streams or at whatever, and that let's say it's like 100 streams, you know, and that equates to like a penny, you know. So it's like I could tell it's discouraging to people. So I think that is a big obstacle of being able to really believe in yourself, and you know, like just defining on what you think making it is, you know. Like we have grand visions because we know where we're going. We believe in this and we see it, you know. Sometimes it's hard for people, especially when they don't have people that like can share the accountability with them. Mm-hmm. It's hard to like really continue that thing when you're just solo, because you could get in your head so much, especially when you have people around you. Like luckily, like now it's to the point where our families realize how like real this is, but there was a while where we had to like lie about what we were doing, you know. and now it's to the point where like it's very, very visible, and people are starting to understand that like, okay, this is a job, you know, and it's a lot where you have to pay a lot of dues before you start seeing actual paychecks. But it's to the point now where people are, you know, paying us to perform, people are buying our merch, people are doing that, and it took years to get that. And some people are just gonna see us, you know, overnight and be like, oh wow, they blew up overnight, when they didn't see the 5 years or however many years it took to get to that point, you know.
Grind. Yeah.
There's a saying out there, they say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, you know, and I think that everyone in this room could very much relate to our families not taking our passions that are our jobs serious. Like, oh, that's not a real job, or that's not a real profession. I think everyone here can definitely relate to that in some way or another.
Doing revolutionary organizing, I think sometimes my family would have been happier if I was like, I went and studied balloon animals or whatever. Like, because it's like that's a little bit more visible. But now, like you said, over time, right? Like they see, I think, a shared vision, right? Or like the power that comes from a vision, right? Like when you're willing to sacrifice, when you're willing to go, like you're all talking about, like putting in the hours, like this is your job, like this is like what you're devoting your lives to, like that's contagious. People, when they see it, because most people, they're selling their day to like some rich asshole for like, you know, a chance to maybe come home and watch some TV and just like, you know, get a snippet, like a screenshot of like happiness or just at least comfort, right? But when they see somebody that are like living purposefully, that are like, yo, like we're committed to the art, to like furthering the culture, people will like, you know, catch on to that. Like you're all seeing right now, like people are like vibing with the like whole, you know, message that you're putting out there, like the like honesty that like, you know, your music presents. I think that's, you know, I think a real takeaway that a lot of people don't get, and that's why I think a lot of people look up to people like yourself, creators, like people that do follow their dreams, is because when they see like someone doing that, everybody wants to like, oh, I wish I could do that, right? So I think it's really cool that you mentioned that.
One of the obstacles is like being a performer, an artist, is trying to find out exactly where you kind of fit in. Because as a DJ, for me, like I didn't, you know, I just got asked to perform, right? And it was like a club in like Chula Vista, and then I didn't know what I was doing. Like I enjoyed the music, making the music and stuff like that, but I wanted to find purpose. I wanted to find something that can really give me motivation, inspiration for myself, and really like just feel good about what I'm doing. You know, just playing music and doing all that. It was a lot of trouble. It was a lot of like fights happening in like the clubs and stuff. That was like my first time, my stage as a DJ. There was a lot of fights, a lot of arguments, a lot of division. So I feel like that's a big obstacle, like trying to find out where you fit in or what you're supposed to do as an artist or a performer. You know, so
find your footing, find your voice, where you feel comfortable at, you know.
Exactly, yeah. So throughout all those years, like I've had a lot of obstacles, you know. Always just having that question, like where do I fit in? What am I doing? You know what I mean? Like until I found them, and I was like, oh, this is like,
you found your people.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Exactly what I'm supposed to do. So.
Yo, so kind of going on in that same line, JG, you know, for all three of you guys, what advice do you have for young artists and, you know, performers who want to get into the music industry, you know, particularly those who want to send like a positive and uplifting message too, you know, they're not just in it just for the sake of, you know, performing or getting attention, you know, people who want to put like conscious music out there?
I say like really make music for yourself, what you're a fan of, what you like, and just really work on your confidence and your self-esteem, so that way no matter what anybody says to you, it doesn't matter, because you know, you're already your biggest fan, you know? And it's very easy to get caught up in that self-criticism or letting other people criticize you and getting into your doubt. But I think that's like the main thing is really just make stuff for you, be authentic, especially if that's what you want to do, if you want to make a positive impact. Really just be you and do it to the fullest. There will never be another person like you. There'll never be another person like me. You know, maybe similar, you know, but there will never be another you for sure, you know? So, and no one's going to have the same exact experience as you. And even if they share the same thing, not everybody will put that in a song. So I say just really just be 100% unapologetically you, and just do it for the love of it. And then if it transpires into something else, just don't change for anybody else. Really just do it because you want to do it. Anything. Yeah, so that's my advice. And just know that it takes a lot of work to do it, you know. I think a lot of people get disillusioned sometimes seeing these quote-unquote overnight successes, you know, when they don't see all the years. Or like, I think I could probably like write songs all day. I'm very, I'm not a, how do you say, like very fluent in making beats, you know? I know little to nothing about recording and engineering or whatever. And, you know, I feel like that's when you need other people to help you and stuff, you know? So there's gonna be a lot of things that go into it besides just making the good music, you know? That's another thing you gotta understand. There's so much that goes behind it. And then after that, if you wanna get your message across, you gotta figure out how to market it. You gotta figure out how to promote it, whatever, because yeah, there's music and there's music business. And at the end of the day, it goes hand in hand if you wanna really make an impact. And that's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, be it. But the main thing is be 100% authentic.
Absolutely.
Anything to add?
I think he nailed it with that, honestly.
Yeah, definitely have a lot of passion and love in what you're doing, for sure. Because if you're doing something, like you're performing, you're writing, or you want to make beats or something, and you don't love it that much, like, it's different, you know? But you really got to love it and have that passion for it.
Yeah.
To really grow in it, you know? So for me, like, DJing is like, I can scratch all day long, like, forever. I love it, because it just feels so good, you know?
It feel weird not doing it.
Exactly. So, like, having that feeling, that passion, that love, you know, in whatever you're doing as an artist, you know, is really where I feel like it's at, where you're really gonna grow.
Absolutely. Beautiful words, guys. Thank you for sharing that.
Definitely. And that, you know, brings us to you telling us like what you can about any kind of upcoming projects. You kind of mentioned, you know, people are hitting you up. You've got a lot of opportunities. You're going to get to be kind of more, I don't call it picky, but you get to be more deliberate with what you're choosing to do. So what are you all excited about? What do you all have lined up for the future here in 2023? You know, share that with us.
Releasing an actual Neighborhood Kids project with the full band.
Yeah.
A lot of singles that are produced by us, you know. I'm starting to do stuff on the flute now. So,
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, I'm gonna learn that. Working with them, more performances, big shows, and we just released our Tiny Desk submission, and guys, I think we won it. You know, it's like, so there's that.
Yeah.
That's one of the big goals I've had. Random goals of mine are like making it on Tiny Desk with them, and then getting a Nardwar interview.
There you go.
But also having like a classic music, because I feel like maybe I'll never be content with how much stuff I have out there, but like right now I'm like, I need to put more stuff. We're working on a bunch of stuff and we've just had obstacles of recording, you know? So I think like this year we're already getting over it. We lined up studio time, but yeah, I think you guys are gonna expect projects, singles, music videos, performances, and more.
Collaborations.
And collaborations.
Yeah, with indigenous cats.
Friends of the show. I have to add too is the recording with Bambula.
Oh yeah, we're gonna record with an orchestra, and that's gonna be super dope. It's actually coming up in April, so we have that going on.
And she has some solo stuff that she's been working on too.
You too?
Oh, I have some solo stuff too that I've been working on, and
you too?
yeah, JG has some solo stuff he's been working on, and
All the kids got stuff.
yeah, and he's been hit up by other people to get like some scratches in.
Yeah,
One of them.
so that I got some DJ lessons coming in.
Oh yeah.
Can we shout out some names for the scratches? For that, who are you gonna artist?
One might be Silver and Gold.
Oh yeah.
And who else? Oh, Indigenous Cats.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also Jag.
Shout out Jag from
Shout out to Jag and Threat for sure.
Exactly. And he was just about to say it too. I heard him start to say it, but he actually did his first DJ lesson of teaching someone how to DJ.
Yeah.
So that's
a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I got to teach someone for the very first time. And it was a great experience because I brought that spark back, you know?
Yeah.
They were super excited. They're like, oh my gosh, like you taught me something that I never even knew could be created or made. Because I was teaching her how to make like live beats, like sampling like a track right on the spot, you know? And then she just got mind blown and she was like, oh my gosh, like, this is incredible. So it really like sparked me too, because I was like, wow, it's cool how you can just like really enlighten somebody, you know, through your you know, teaching something that you know.
It's inspiring to inspire other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Inspireception.
Smith over here. Yeah.
Bars.
Yo, guys. So with that said, I got a two-part question for you guys.
Make it 3.
If I wanted to ask, if you could have your fans remember you by one thing, what would it be, and what would be your message to the fans?
Do you guys have anything off top?
Off the what? Say it.
I say just keep loving each other, work hard, take care of each other through the process of everything that you're doing, for sure. And yeah.
What do you want them to remember about DJ, like DJ GG?
About me, Hans.
Oh
So I had to throw that in. Don't forget that, right?
Oh my god. It's because he has some of the biggest hands ever, so you know.
We see the gloves and the emojis on Instagram.
Oh my god. The fucking hands.
Also, in
Hans.
addition to cats, when we were chilling with them too, freaking Complex made this song. His like
His joke.
remix. He was like Hans. And then he started busting this wild flow over it, and I was like, whoa, and the whole song.
He's so funny.
It was fun.
I think it'll be impossible for me not to remember. That's the takeaway.
Hans, that's the episode name now.
What about you, Ben? What do you want your fans to take away after listening to your music?
Definitely just remembering, because I want Verde to represent, like, you know, nature and like naturaleza, you know, like you know, being barefaced, like being beautiful, like just organically, and just like letting you know yourself be natural, and just the natural beauty and you know, in humans and within the planet, really, you know, and just taking care of the planet and Mother Earth, really, that's really important right now. And yeah, and letting your inner kid just come alive always. Like, I will preach that forever, you know.
Yeah, and as for me, I'm a huge a fan of like big hip hop artists, and I've always loved when rappers' names were acronyms, like, you know, KRS-One, knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. So Amon's actually an acronym for ambition made of negativity. So all that negative energy, instead of letting it bring me down, I use it to uplift not only myself but other people, because, you know, let's face it, negative energy is always going to be around. Hopefully, like, we could eradicate it, but, you know, I'm just going to say that it's going to be around no matter how it shapes, how it forms, you know, but it's up to us what we do with it. You know, you could make it, you could let it bring you down, or you could be like, let it fuel your fire. So that's what I want people to take away from that. And as far as like when people like know the kids, I want them to know that, you know, we're the neighborhood kids, you guys are also the neighborhood kids, and never let your inner kid die.
Hell yeah, man. There you go. That's it right there.
Mic drop.
And one more thing. I wanted to add, actually, because I forgot my name is JG, and what it stands for, actually, the J stands for justice and the G stands for good. So I'm always all about justice and like the good in life, you know, just trying to always promote that, and just, you know, just keep pushing for that, for justice and for good in life everywhere we go.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
love it.
that's
Absolutely
right.
love it, man. Good and justice. So, guys, we are approaching the end of our interview, so I wanted to ask you, where can people find and follow you online to see all your work, all the latest updates for new music, shows, promotions, and any other events that you guys got going on? Because you guys got a lot of stuff on the dock for 2023.
Yes.
On Instagram, TikTok, you can find us at The Neighborhood Kids Music, Facebook, The Neighborhood Kids, YouTube, The Neighborhood Kids, Spotify, The Neighborhood Kids, and then we have theneighborhoodkidsmusic.com, and yeah, just
And then personally, you're Amon the Emcee,
Amon the Emcee.
and Verde Hip Hop.
DJ_JG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, do you have any closing comments or anything else you want our listeners to know about yourself, or any upcoming music, or just drop some words of wisdom or drop some gems on our audience?
Be yourself. The kids are up. The kids got something to say. Listen to the kids.
No,
Kids are all right, as they say.
kids are all right. Well, with that said, Amon, Verde, JG, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you guys. We look forward to having you all on the show again real soon.
Oh yeah, and we'll see you on the 18th.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Let's go.
That said, we out.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
This that concrete jungle. I really hope you make it, cause the land of the free is the land of Freemasons. We try to find peace, but they keep us segregated. Now they put us in the dirt, cause the churches that you pray in, they sit and pray when the souls that they take in are buried underneath the very bottom of the